palace walls are about to come crashing down on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and sources say the couple is absolutely blindsided by what's coming. Word on the street suggests that Prince William has made a decision that could change everything for the Sussexes. And it's not just royal gossip anymore. This is real, this is happening, and insiders claim the fallout could be absolutely devastating. Reports surfaced in late April and early May 2025, revealing that Prince William plans to strip Harry and Meghan of their HRH titles the very moment he becomes king. And we're not talking about some distant hypothetical future. Sources close to the Prince of Wales told the Daily Beast that this move has been under consideration for some time, but it's now gained what they call renewed urgency. Translation: William is done playing nice. One former courtier described Harry and Meghan as loose ends that William is determined to tidy up by snipping off once he ascends the throne. Let that sink in for a moment. The future king views his own brother and sister-in-law as problems that need to be eliminated. The coldness of that statement is absolutely chilling, and it tells you everything you need to know about where things stand between these brothers right now. But here's where it gets even more explosive. Sources say Prince William loathes and despises Harry and Meghan with every bone in his body. Those aren't our words. Those are the words being whispered behind palace doors by people who actually know William personally. The level of hatred, the depth of betrayal he feels, it's all boiling over, and the only thing stopping him from acting right now is respect for his father's position. One friend of William's made it crystal clear, saying the HRH titles will go and that removing them would be among the first things he will do when he becomes king. Not eventually, not someday, immediately. The moment the crown passes to William's head, Harry and Meghan's royal privileges could vanish in an instant. The former courtier told the Daily Beast that William now believes Harry and Meghan must be completely cut off from the royal institution. No more half measures, no more gentlemen's agreements, a complete and total severance, and the chaos of a royal succession, they say, is always the perfect moment to make decisive changes. William has been planning this, waiting for his moment, and that moment is coming closer every single day. The Sussexes may have thought they could have it both ways, freedom from royal duties but keeping all the perks and prestige. But that gamble might be about to backfire spectacularly. To understand why this rumored move by William is so explosive, we need to go back to January 2020. That's when everything changed for Harry and Meghan, and that's when they made a promise to Queen Elizabeth II that apparently meant everything to her. The Sandringham Summit, that's what they called it. Senior royals gathered at the Queen's private estate in Norfolk to hammer out the terms of Harry and Meghan's exit from royal life. The atmosphere was tense, the stakes were incredibly high, and the Queen was determined to find a solution that would protect the monarchy while giving her grandson some semblance of the freedom he claimed to desperately want. And at the heart of that agreement was one critical promise. Harry and Meghan could keep their HRH titles, which stands for His Royal Highness and Her Royal Highness, but they agreed they would never ever use them again. Not publicly, not privately, not ever. The official statement from Buckingham Palace couldn't have been clearer. The Sussexes will not use their HRH titles as they are no longer working members of the royal family. Period. End of story. That statement is still visible on the official royal website today, a permanent record of the deal they made. But what exactly is an HRH title, and why does it matter so much? Here's the thing, HRH isn't technically a title at all. It's what royal experts call a style, which is basically a formal way of addressing someone. It's a mark of honor, a sign of status, a courtesy extended to senior members of the royal family. It doesn't come with any official government role or formal rank, but it carries enormous prestige and sends a very clear message to the world. This person is royal. This person represents the crown. This person speaks with the authority of the monarchy behind them. When you have that HRH in front of your name, doors open, people bow, respect is automatic. And in the world of commercial deals, celebrity appearances, and brand partnerships, that little three-letter designation is worth its weight in gold. It's the difference between being just another celebrity and being actual royalty. The Queen understood this perfectly. She knew that if Harry and Meghan kept using their HRH titles while also pursuing lucrative media deals and commercial ventures in America, it would create a massive problem. How could the public trust that they weren't trading on their royal connections? How could anyone be sure they weren't exploiting their relationship with the crown for personal profit? The separation had to be clean, had to be absolute, had to be crystal clear. So the agreement was made. Harry and Meghan could keep their Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles. They could remain Prince and Princess by birth. But the HRH? That had to go, at least in terms of public use. For the Queen, this wasn't just about protocol or tradition. This was about protecting the integrity of the institution she had served for 7 decades. And Harry and Meghan agreed. They shook hands on it. They made that promise. But now, palace insiders say that promise has been shattered. So what exactly did Meghan do that has William reportedly seeing red? Buckle up, because this is where things get really messy. It started in mid-April 2025 with what seemed like an innocent Instagram post. Meghan shared a message she'd received from Yulia Svyrydenko, the vice president of Ukraine, thanking her for support. Sweet gesture, right? Except for one tiny detail. The message began with the words, "Your Royal Highness," and Meghan posted it for the entire world to see. Palace insiders told the Daily Beast that this wasn't accidental. Friends of William suggested that Meghan was testing the waters, seeing how far she could push things while maintaining what they called deniability. After all, she didn't call herself HRH. Someone else did. She just happened to share it publicly with her millions of followers. Clever move, some might say. Calculated provocation, say others. But that was just the beginning. The real bombshell dropped when Meghan appeared on a podcast with her friend Jamie Kern-Lima. During the interview, a gift basket came into view, one that Meghan had previously sent to Jamie, and attached to that basket was a note that read, "With the compliments of HRH the Duchess of Sussex." The backlash was immediate and fierce. This wasn't someone else addressing her as HRH. This was Meghan herself using the title, on her own stationery, on her own gift. There was no deniability here, no wiggle room, no gray area. She had literally printed up compliment slips with her HRH style emblazoned on them. Sources close to the Sussexes scrambled to do damage control. They told reporters that Harry and Meghan retain their HRH titles, and while they don't use them for commercial purposes, this was a personal gift. The key word being personal, not business, not commercial, just a friend giving another friend a present, and therefore perfectly acceptable. But former courtiers weren't buying it for a second. One described this interpretation as complete rubbish. The Sandringham summit made it crystal clear, they said, that Harry and Meghan had agreed not to use the HRH titles at all, ever, in any capacity. Not commercially, not personally, not anywhere. The official Buckingham Palace statement backs this up. It doesn't say the Sussexes will not use their HRH titles for commercial purposes. It says they will not use their HRH titles, period. The distinction matters enormously. Friends of William told the Daily Beast that if the Ukrainian letter was Meghan testing the waters, printing up her own HRH compliment slips was an entirely different scale of provocation. This wasn't passive. This wasn't accidental. This was Meghan actively, deliberately using a title she had promised the late Queen she would never use again. And for William, sources say this felt like a direct slap in the face to his beloved grandmother's memory. The Queen had trusted Harry and Meghan to keep their word. She'd made the agreement a gentleman's agreement rather than legally stripping the titles away. She'd shown them grace, shown them mercy, given them the benefit of the doubt. And now, barely 3 years after her death, Meghan was allegedly throwing that trust right back in the royal family's face. The reports coming out of palace circles paint a picture of Prince William that many people might find shocking. This isn't the composed, measured future king we see at official engagements. Behind closed doors, sources say William's anger toward Harry and Meghan has reached a boiling point that can no longer be contained. Multiple sources who claim to know William personally have used remarkably strong language to describe his feelings. He loathes and despises Harry and Meghan with every bone in his body. That's not hyperbole. That's not exaggeration. Those are allegedly the actual words being used by people in his inner circle. The intensity of that hatred speaks volumes about how deeply William feels betrayed by his younger brother. Former courtiers have gone on record saying that William is bent on stripping Harry and Meghan of their HRH titles due to what they describe as a blatant breach of both the agreement with his grandmother and fundamental royal protocol. For William, this isn't just about titles or formalities. It's personal. It's about honor, integrity, and respect for the institution his grandmother dedicated her entire life to protecting. Sources say William has been sickened by his brother leveraging his royal status for personal gain. The Netflix documentaries, the Oprah interview, the memoir Spare where Harry revealed intimate childhood experiences they shared, all of it has left William feeling exploited and exposed. These were private family moments, sacred brother-to-brother memories, and Harry turned them into commercial products sold to the highest bidder. But Meghan's use of the HRH title has allegedly pushed William to a breaking point. Friends of the Prince of Wales told reporters that he views this as profoundly disrespectful to his beloved grandmother. Queen Elizabeth gave Harry and Meghan those titles as hereditary honors, as gifts bestowed with love and trust. The fact that Meghan is now allegedly using that title to add prestige to her lifestyle brand, her jam business, her various commercial ventures, feels to William like a desecration of his grandmother's generosity. One friend of William's put it bluntly when speaking to the Daily Beast. It's no secret William wants Harry more harshly dealt with. He thinks he has betrayed the family from top to bottom, which is the ultimate Windsor crime. In the royal world, family loyalty isn't just expected, it's sacred. It's the foundation upon which the entire monarchy rests. And in William's eyes, Harry has committed the unforgivable sin of airing the family's dirty laundry for money and fame. The friend added something even more ominous. It wouldn't take much to provoke him to flex his muscles when he is king. Translation? William is just waiting for his moment. He's biding his time, respecting his father's authority for now, but the second that crown is on his head, the gloves come off. Sources describe William as someone determined to uphold traditional values, norms, and the integrity of the monarch. He's not interested in modern compromises or gentle approaches. He wants a clean break, a definitive statement that says you cannot betray this family and keep your privileges. And Meghan using her HRH? That might just be the final straw. While William is reportedly sharpening his knives and preparing for battle, King Charles has taken a completely different approach to the Harry and Meghan situation. And that difference in strategy has allegedly created tension, frustration, and a sense that the monarchy is losing control. Sources close to King Charles paint him as a father caught between love for his sons and duty to the crown. Friends say Charles has no appetite for a fight with Harry and Meghan. He doesn't want to open a new front in what one insider called the civil war between the royals and the Sussexes. Charles grew up surrounded by a loyal family and siblings, and he'd always hoped for some sort of reconciliation with Harry. That hope, sources say, has shaped his entire approach to dealing with the situation. Charles is described as tolerant and lenient, always believing that time and patience might heal the wounds. He's reportedly held out hope that Harry would eventually see reason, that the anger would fade, that family bonds would prove stronger than celebrity ambitions and commercial deals. But that soft approach has allegedly backfired spectacularly. One friend of William's didn't mince words when speaking about Charles's handling of the situation. Charles has completely lost control, they said. It's apparent that Harry and Meghan have every intention of making his final years a misery, just as he feared they would. Harsh words, but they reveal the frustration building within royal circles. The perception is that Charles's kindness has been exploited, his patience has been abused, and his hope for reconciliation has been turned into a weapon against him. The friend went even further, saying that Meghan using her HRH exposes how weak and enfeebled Charles is. She knows he won't do anything. Think about how devastating that assessment is. The suggestion here is that Meghan has Charles figured out completely. She knows he won't act, won't fight back, won't enforce consequences. So she can push boundaries, break agreements, and do whatever she wants without fear of repercussions. And William? Sources say he's watching all of this with growing fury and frustration. He respects his father's rank, follows his lead for now, and won't publicly contradict the king's softer approach. But privately, insiders claim William thinks his father's strategy is a complete disaster. Friends say William has been given significant influence on all areas of royal policy, but that cuts both ways. He must defer to his father's wishes while Charles is alive. But the moment Charles is gone, that's when everything changes. One friend of William's made it crystal clear. Charles has a softly attitude to Harry and Meghan, and so that's the policy for now. But the gloves will be off when he inherits the throne. The message couldn't be more explicit. William is holding back, waiting, biding his time, but he's also making plans, preparing his strategy, and getting ready to act the second he has the authority to do so. There's no way King William will stand for this. Another source declared, the titles will simply be removed when he is king. A way will be found. The certainty in that statement is striking. Not maybe, not possibly. Will be removed. Guaranteed. Absolute. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Charles the merciful father versus William the iron-willed future king. And Harry and Meghan are about to find out which approach wins. So here's the million-dollar question. Can Prince William actually do this? Does he have the legal authority to strip Harry and Meghan of their HRH titles the moment he becomes king? According to constitutional experts and former government ministers, the answer is a resounding yes. Norman Baker, a former government minister who has written extensively on royal and constitutional matters, explained the legal mechanics to the Daily Beast. The law is not clear, he admitted, but I have little doubt that as the bestowing of an HRH is in the gift of the monarch could remove the HRH title. It would basically be the equivalent to an executive order in the United States. One signature, one decree, and it's done. No debate, no lengthy legal process, just immediate action. Here's how it works. An HRH is bestowed through something called letters patent, which sounds fancy but is really just a legally binding royal decree. The monarch issues these letters patent, and boom, you're an HRH. And here's the key part. What can be given by royal decree can also be taken away by royal decree. There's precedent for this. Both Princess Diana and Sarah Ferguson lost their HRH titles when they divorced Charles and Andrew respectively. The rules were quietly changed, and their HRH designations simply vanished. Baker was actually an early voice calling for the Sussexes to be stripped of the titles when they first quit the working family back in 2020. He told reporters it was a mistake to not simply take it away at the time. People didn't want to up the ante and cause problems, so it was smudged over, as so many things in the United Kingdom are. But as we can now see, it would have been useful to have had that clarity. Translation: the Queen's kindness in letting them keep the titles technically while agreeing not to use them has created this entire mess. Now here's where it gets a bit more complicated. The HRH titles can be removed easily, but what about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles? Those are different. Those would require legislative action through an act of parliament. That's a much higher bar, a much more politically fraught process. You'd need members of parliament to debate it, vote on it, pass a bill. The royal family can't just wave a magic wand and make those disappear. But sources say William isn't particularly worried about the Duke and Duchess titles. The HRH is what matters. The HRH is what carries the real prestige, the real weight, the real message that you are capital R royal. Without it, Harry and Meghan are just another Duke and Duchess, titles that sound impressive but don't carry anywhere near the same cachet in the modern world. One former courtier made it clear that Harry and Meghan are likely to lose their HRH styles, which is simply a matter of royal decree. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex titles would remain intact, not least because the mechanism for stripping them would require parliamentary action, a politically fraught prospect. But losing the HRH? That's happening the moment William has the power to make it happen. Sources close to William say the plan is already in place. The chaos of a royal succession is always a good moment to make decisive changes, one insider explained. And William knows this. He studied history. He understands that transitions of power are when bold moves can be made with the least resistance. The countdown has begun. Of course, Harry and Meghan weren't about to sit back quietly while reports swirled about William's alleged plans to strip their titles. Their camp fired back with their own interpretation of events, and the spin they put on things reveals just how wide the gap has become between the two sides. A source close to the Duchess told reporters that Harry and Meghan retain their HRH titles. Full stop. They still have them. They were never actually removed. The source continued, explaining that by agreement, they do not use them for commercial purposes. The key distinction here, according to Team Sussex, is the word commercial. In their view, the agreement was specifically about not exploiting the titles for business deals, brand partnerships, and money-making ventures. So when Meghan used her HRH title on that gift basket to her friend Jamie Kern-Lima, that was a personal gift, the source emphasized. Not a business transaction, not a commercial venture, just one friend giving another friend a present. And because it was personal and private, it didn't violate any agreement. While they do not publicly use HRH, this was a personal gift, and their titles remain, the source stated matter-of-factly. The argument sounds reasonable on the surface. After all, there's a logical distinction between using a title to sell products versus using it in your personal correspondence. But former courtiers and palace insiders absolutely rejected this interpretation. One described it as complete rubbish, and they weren't shy about explaining why. The Sandringham summit made it clear they had agreed not to use the HRH titles at all, ever in any capacity. The former courtier insisted, not just commercially, not just publicly, at all, period. And the official statement from Buckingham Palace backs up this interpretation. Go read it yourself on the royal website. It says the Sussexes will not use their HRH titles as they are no longer working members of the royal family. There's no qualifier there about commercial versus personal use. There's no exception carved out for private gifts or friendly correspondence. The statement is absolute and unambiguous. Will not use their HRH titles. End of sentence. No wiggle room, no gray area, no creative reinterpretation allowed. That's what they agreed to, palace sources insist. And that's what they're now allegedly violating. But here's where things get even messier. The Sussex camp clearly believes they're on solid legal ground. After all, the titles were never formally removed. They technically remain HRH by virtue of their marriage and royal status. The agreement at Sandringham was described by some as a gentleman's agreement, a promise made in good faith rather than a legally binding decree. And if it's just a gentleman's agreement, then maybe there's room for interpretation about what counts as use and what doesn't. Royal experts who know the family pointed out the fundamental problem with this entire situation. There were plenty of people at the time who said it was a mistake to make not using the title a mere gentleman's agreement rather than just removing it. One expert explained, "This post may not matter in and of itself, but it raises a bigger question. What are they going to do if she simply starts using her HRH again? She probably cannot be stopped as things stand right now. The bottom line is she is, officially, an HRH. It was never removed. And therein lies the battle." The Sussexes say they're following the rules. The palace says they're breaking them, and nobody seems able to agree on what the rules actually are. Just when you thought this situation couldn't get more complicated, reports emerged that added an entirely new dimension to the title drama. And this one involves Harry and Meghan's children, 6-year-old Prince Archie and 4-year-old Princess Lilibet. In June 2025, The Guardian published a report with a line that absolutely flabbergasted royal insiders. The Guardian understands that Prince Harry wants to keep the HRH titles for his children so that when they grow older they can decide for themselves whether they want to become working royals or stay out of public life. Now, when The Guardian uses the phrase "The Guardian understands," that's typically code for information that came from an authorized source, like a PR team. In other words, this likely came directly from Harry and Meghan's camp. The reaction from William's circle was swift and brutal. One friend of Prince William told the Daily Beast that William obviously isn't going to hire Archie and Lilibet. This is just trolling on the part of Harry and Meghan. The dismissiveness in that statement is absolutely striking. Not just no, but an incredulous, "Are you seriously even suggesting this kind of no?" The friend continued, and their words dripped with sarcasm. It's actually hilarious that no one even noticed it for 10 days, until the Mail did it. The idea that somehow having a vestigial HRH as a baby later entitles you to be a working royal is beyond parody, even for them. Beyond parody. That's how absurd William's friends apparently find this entire proposition. But here's the thing. Harry's reasoning, if you take it at face value, isn't completely unreasonable. He's saying, look, let my kids keep their titles in reserve. When they're adults, they can make their own choice about whether they want a royal life or a private life. Don't decide their future for them when they're still in diapers. On a human level, you can understand a father wanting to preserve options for his children, but palace insiders see it completely differently. They see this as Harry and Meghan trying to have their cake and eat it too. Yet again, the couple promised the late Queen they wouldn't use their HRH titles. That promise, former courtiers say, obviously would extend to their children. Any reasonable person would understand that would mean your kids don't use them either. One source explained, "You can't agree to step away from the institution and then expect your children to be granted the very privileges you just renounced." And there's a deeper issue at play here. Sources say this is really about Meghan's ability to maintain her royal brand. If Archie and Lilibet are prince and princess with HRH designations, even if they're not using them now, that keeps the royal mystique alive. It allows Harry and Meghan to present themselves as the parents of potentially future working royals. It adds prestige, adds cachet, adds that indefinable something that separates actual royalty from mere celebrity. But William's friends made it crystal clear what will happen when he becomes king. Prince William will strip his exiled brother Prince Harry's children of their HRH titles, sources told the Daily Beast with absolute certainty. Not might, not could, will. The decision has apparently already been made. One friend summed it up perfectly. The simple fact is that Meghan has gone back on the deal by using her HRH. Harry and Meghan were asked by the Queen to stop using their HRH, and agreed. The children losing their HRH titles isn't vindictive. It's a natural consequence of their parents' choices. For Archie and Lilibet, the future just got a lot less royal. So what does the British public actually think about all of this? Because at the end of the day, the monarchy exists with the consent and support of the people. And the polling numbers tell a fascinating story about where public sentiment stands on the Harry and Meghan title question. Royal expert Hilary Fordwich told Fox News Digital that given public polling over the years, the public shares William's sentiments. Translation: the British people are on William's side in this fight. They want to see consequences for what they view as Harry and Meghan's betrayal of the royal family. They're tired of watching the couple profit from their royal connections while simultaneously trashing the institution that gave them those connections in the first place. Fordwich explained that William wishes to uphold traditional values, norms, and the integrity of the monarch. He views Meghan Markle commercializing the HRH title as disrespectful to his beloved grandmother, and the British public by and large seems to agree with that assessment. They remember Queen Elizabeth's grace, her dignity, the way she handled Harry and Meghan's exit with such restraint and compassion, and they're not happy about seeing that generosity allegedly thrown back in her face. There have been multiple calls in the United Kingdom for the couple to be stripped of their titles over the years. Parliamentary bills have been introduced, though none have been successful. But the fact that members of Parliament felt enough public pressure to even propose such legislation tells you everything you need to know about the mood in Britain. People are fed up, they're frustrated, and they want action. But not everyone thinks stripping the titles is the right move. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams warned that while William could theoretically remove the HRH titles when he becomes king, it would cause enormous trouble and controversy. He explained that it would need an act of parliament to take away the Sussex dukedom, which almost certainly won't happen. They shouldn't use the HRH, but we know they do, he acknowledged. However, he will always be a prince, and she is a princess. The matter is best left. That's the counter-argument. Why poke the bear? Why create more drama, more headlines, more conflict? Harry will always be the son of King Charles. He'll always be the grandson of Queen Elizabeth. Those facts cannot be changed no matter how many titles are removed. So maybe the smartest play is to simply ignore Harry and Meghan, let them fade into irrelevance, and avoid giving them the attention and controversy they seem to thrive on. But sources close to William suggest he fundamentally disagrees with that approach. For him, this isn't about drama or headlines or public spectacle. This is about protecting the institution. This is about sending a clear message that you cannot betray the royal family and keep your privileges. This is about establishing rules, boundaries, and consequences for future generations. Former courtiers have been quoted saying that while Parliament hasn't passed any laws allowing titles to be revoked more easily, they have already discussed creating new legislation in step with public sentiment. The wheels are turning, the conversation is happening, and when William becomes king, he may have more tools at his disposal than Charles currently does. The British public is watching, waiting, wondering what happens next. and if the polls are any indication, most of them are ready to see William take decisive action. The question is no longer if he'll do it, the question is when. Let's talk about what really happens if William follows through on these rumored plans. Because losing the HRH titles isn't just about prestige or protocol. For Harry and Meghan, it could mean the difference between relevance and obscurity, between commercial success and catastrophic failure. One insider speaking to the media put it bluntly: the royal family does not need Harry or Meghan, but Harry and Meghan need the royal family. They are only valuable individually if they are tied to the royal family. Being royal translates to money and deals for them. If they are cast aside, they have no value. Those are harsh words, but there's truth buried in that assessment. Strip away the royal connection, and what do you actually have? A former cable television actress, and a man whose primary claim to fame is being born into the right family. Think about their various business ventures. The Netflix deals, the Spotify partnership that already ended badly, Meghan's lifestyle brand American Riviera Orchard with its jam and dog biscuits. All of these ventures trade heavily on their royal mystique. People aren't interested in Meghan because she's a brilliant entrepreneur, or Harry because he's a compelling content creator. They're interested because these two people married into the most famous family on earth, lived in palaces, and have insider stories to tell. Take away the HRH, and suddenly that mystique starts to fade. Suddenly they're just Harry and Meghan, not their royal highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The shine comes off, the magic disappears, and in the brutal world of celebrity branding and commercial partnerships, that could be absolutely devastating. The reaction to Harry's most recent BBC interview tells the story perfectly. Where once every Harry and Meghan bombshell would dominate the headlines for days, this one barely made a ripple outside the United Kingdom. People are tired of hearing a man with extraordinary privilege, wealth, and a mansion in California complain endlessly about how unfair life has been. The sympathy well has run dry, the public patience has been exhausted, and so Harry now finds himself in a strange royal purgatory. No longer a working royal, sort of a celebrity, increasingly irrelevant. One commentator described him as starting to resemble a bizarre hybrid of Prince Andrew and Edward VIII. Men who, having spurned duty and tradition, found themselves isolated, stuck, and increasingly defined by bitterness and regret. That's a chilling comparison, and it raises the question of what Harry's legacy will ultimately be. Prince Harry could have been a powerful force for good. He had the platform, the resources, the public affection. He could have been a consequential voice in global environmental advocacy and philanthropic leadership. Instead, he's become what many see as a cautionary tale about what happens when you choose celebrity over duty, commerce over service, grievance over grace. And Meghan? Sources suggest she realizes she miscalculated when she orchestrated their exit, and then basically smeared the royal family in the Oprah interview and the Netflix docuseries. But realizing your mistake and being able to fix it are two very different things. Winter is coming for the Sussexes. Prince William is preparing his move, and when that crown finally rests on his head, Harry and Meghan may discover that some bridges once burned can never be rebuilt. So what do you think? Should William strip those titles? Or is it time to let sleeping dogs lie? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you won't believe what's coming next.